Welcome to the Rimworld mod rundown. We'll be taking a quick look at what you can expect to see from Vanilla Furniture Expanded Spacer module. For starters, you'll need the additional workshop content, Vanilla Expanded Framework and Harmony. What a perfect time for the updated version of Spacer Furniture to land, given that we can now see the splash screen teaser for the upcoming expansion, which seems to be heavily themed around space exploration. So what does this version 2 update change with the Spacer Furniture? You've got a few new bits to play with that weren't previously included, all of the old parts have been rebalanced and had their artwork updated, and you'll also find that the spacer lamp has been removed and is now included with vanilla textures expanded variations. It's not completely gone, it's just in another castle. The major update to this mod is that it's no longer dependent on you having the base furniture expanded installed. So if you live for those ultra-tech runs and you just want high-tech options, you can forego using the core module and just use Spacer. Neat. Obviously this is a super quick mod to actually cover. You've got the odd bit here and there that might offer you some new mechanical interactions, but the majority of parts with this module are a better, more expensive stat block when compared to what you would find with base game furniture or the modern options from Furniture Expanded. And we'll cover why sometimes bigger numbers aren't always a good thing when it comes to it as well. The first thing to go over is that if you're not using the core furniture expansion, the 2 research projects included with this mod have less prerequisites needed to unlock them, whereas with the core module they sit after modern furniture and complex electronics. Both of these projects are still going to require the multi-analyzer to complete them though, so as the name would suggest, this is pretty high tier stuff. To go alongside that high tech requirement, everything also comes with a pretty hefty price tag too.
Morning. How much is this? 149, sir. I've got 50p. Fuck you, bastard.
So let's do the Space Art Furniture project first. This nets you the advanced bed, double bed and chair, the illuminated dresser, end table and wardrobe, and the modern armchair and couch. The reason that most of these pieces of furniture are so expensive comes down to a very simple part, the advanced component. If you're building a single bedroom with all of the associated furniture, it's going to cost you 4 advanced components, 3 standard components, 25 steel, and 270 of your building material of choice. And that's for a single sleeping arrangement too. If you want to make something for a couple, you'd need a further 40 materials, 15 steel, 2 more standard components, and 1 advanced component. Whilst these pieces are expensive, they aren't crazy work intensive or absurdly demanding of your construction skill, especially with what most colonists are going to be rocking by the time that you reach this kind of tech level, ranging from a skill requirement of 6 to 8. Finally, you're going to need a little bit of power for all of the accompanying furniture to the bed itself. You need 25 watts on the dresser and wardrobe and 20 watts for the end table. Fortunately, this lets them live up to their illuminated name, providing easily enough light across the 3 of them to cover a moderately sized bedroom. Whilst the advanced lighting research will halve the power consumption of these pieces, it doesn't allow you to change their lighting colour to anything on the RGB spectrum like a standard lamp would, although they do all have dark light toggles for your cave dwellers. Now let's talk some stats. Advanced beds are obviously beating normal beds hands down in terms of comfort, beauty and rest effectiveness, but they are also providing better immunity gain speed and equal surgery success chance when compared to a hospital bed. The only thing missing is the medical tend quality offset. This means performing a transplant or a bionic installation in a colonist bedroom isn't actually as much of a concern with these in place. Plus, people can happily rest in their own bedroom whilst recovering from something like the flu or malaria. Just remember that these beds aren't going to connect to a vitals monitor though, so you are still going to get more mileage in your hospital using the beds that are designed for that. It's definitely going to be cheaper doing it that way too. The illuminated furniture goes a slightly different direction with its buffs when compared to the royal versions that came with Furniture Expanded, as it doesn't simply double the comfort bonus. Now you're also getting additional rest effectiveness offsets, meaning that a normal quality advanced bed with everything connected to it sits at 1.1 comfort and 128% rest effectiveness. Any quality offset on that bed itself is going to make it even higher, and therein lies a small problem. If you have colonists that would like to get a little bit of loving done every now and again, high rest effectiveness values mean that people will be in and out of bed in only a few hours rather than sleeping for a full night. This can lead to sleep patterns getting out of sync because colonists wake up at 3 AM when they're fully rested before being absolutely exhausted by 8 PM, and then they go to bed early, which means they wake up the next morning at 1 AM, and this sleep cycle keeps getting more and more ridiculous. A high rest effectiveness can be great to maximise uptime, but at some point you might need to change the usual schedule and plan a short nap in the middle of the day, if you want your colony to stick to any kind of actual rhythm and have a chance of being in bed at the same time.
I tried to...
You know what? I'm tired. I have a headache. I have a lot of work to do. My back hurts. It's that time of the month. I have an early meeting.
Now we'll go over the armchair and the couch. None of these are modular parts like we saw with the core furniture add-on. What you see here is what you get. Now, the couch and the armchair aren't that bad cost-wise, as they only need standard components, steel and your choice of fabric or leather to build. And bear in mind that they'll be pumping out the best bonuses with a fabric that focuses on a high beauty offset. Nothing else really matters on them stat-wise. You're getting twice the beauty from building a couch without it needing twice the resources to construct. So in terms of optimization, it's better to build these over having single seating everywhere. If you're using the core module too, these still connect to the coffee table, which pushes their 0.95 comfort all the way up to a nice round 1 at normal quality. If you've ever wondered what this comfort number actually means, it isn't how fast the need is fulfilled, it's how much of the comfort need can be fulfilled by that piece of furniture. A wooden stool with 0.5 will only ever fill 50% of the bar, so a modern couch with a coffee table that sits at a comfort of 1 means it can completely satisfy the need for comfort. Making anything over 1 is kind of a waste, as you can't stockpile comfort. All that's left at this tech is the advanced chair, something fitting for either a dining room or a workshop. Although given the quantity of these that you would need to fill out either of those rooms, it's not going to be a quick job to swap everything over. They each take 100 fabric or leather, 30 steel, 2 normal components, and 1 advanced component. It's a really hard ask when a decent quality standard armchair can offer similar comfort and beauty and save you a lot of those advanced components for something like bionic arms, legs, or eyes. Of course, sometimes colonies just go long and you run out of things to spend that vast wealth on. These chairs will easily fulfill that need. And fortunately, with all these parts that the chairs require, there is no need for power, so all the fancy components are used in manual devices rather than electrical ones.
Initiation sequence in progress.
Okay, all right.
Gravity booster EMS. Steady at full power.
All I asked for was a frickin' rotating chair, okay? Well, okay.
Then we move on to Space Art Electronics. This has the more funky stuff for you to play around with. Let's start out with the air purifier, which leads me to wonder if someone in the VE team used to work for Dyson. This little device has a lot of effects going for it, and whilst it isn't cheap, it's not painfully expensive either. It provides an absolutely massive cleanliness buff to any room that it's placed within, with its area of effect always reaching every corner of the room regardless of its size. This doesn't operate like a heater or a cooler though, so placing an air vent will not allow the effect to spill over into an adjoining room. As well as increasing the overall cleanliness, it also does a fantastic job of rapidly clearing things like toxic gas or smoke, meaning one of these in an enclosed bunker will keep you very safe from tox grenades or packs or things that work in a similar fashion. To top it off, colonists that are in a room with a purifier present have a +1 mood buff for breathing clean air. Absolutely worth it to throw one of these in your hospital or research room for the bonuses that it offers, as well as your biosculpting room if you happen to have one. On to all of the TVs that come in with this research then. Firstly, you're now going to be able to build the base game mega screen television, which in vanilla was only available via trade or as a quest reward. This is the ideal choice for a solid source of television recreation without spending the absolute bank that you're going to need for the highest choice from Spacer furniture. Then, sitting somewhere between this mega screen and the standard flat screen, you have the new wall-mounted TV. This costs just a little bit more than your standard flat screen as it needs an extra advanced component, but it saves you some of the floor space by hanging it on the wall instead. Unfortunately, that then comes at the further cost of it losing a portion of its area of effect. Clearly your builder spends a lot of time on r/TV too high and screwed up the viewing angle. it's hard to gauge quite where this lands essentially, as you'd have to be really struggling for floor space to build this over a standard flat screen. At which point, what's stopping you from expanding the room a little bit instead, or building a dedicated cinema? If you attempted to go the route of building a dedicated cinema room, you might want to really splash out some cash and build a hyperscreen television. Now, this thing does commit a cardinal sin in Rimworld, in that it's a 2x4 building and the majority of players build with odd numbers, so that doors are made central. I know how important this can be for certain players, as some of the first feedback I got about my video on the generator questline was that I built it off-center, and my base was driving some viewers insane the entire time they were watching. If you can live with an even-numbered room or an off-center TV, this takes 240 steel, 20 components and 6 advanced components, as well as burning through 700 watts of power, to net you 180% recreation power, making it 20% more impactful than the Megascreen TV, with an 8x6 area rather than a 7x6. So this is about as excessive as you can get. It's awesome to take it as a quest reward though, as deconstructing it gets you a lot of materials to work with. Then to go with these TVs you have the speakers. These connect to any television, with each providing 10% more recreation power and each TV supporting up to 2. So they work similarly to something like a tool cabinet next to a workbench. Each speaker is going to take 60 steel, 10 plasteel, 3 components and 1 advanced component to make, as well as needing 250 watts of power, making this, again, something that falls into the absurd overkill category when you've got nothing else to spend your wealth on. Makes for an absolutely sick looking setup though, and it lets your hyper-focused ADHD brain more easily overplay a song or video to the point that you end up hating it. On to the interactive table. These come in at 1x1 and 2x2 versions. It combines recreation with dining and provides a comparatively low source of TV watching recreation. These tables aren't crazy expensive to build though, with the 1x1 supporting 4 viewers for just 1 advanced component and 30 of your material of choice, against the 8 pawns that a 2x2 can seat for 4 times the components and material cost. Fortunately, the power doesn't quadruple as well, with its drain actually being totally manageable on both. Now, because the recreation power is so low, you need to weigh up if you're going to use these or a dedicated cinema setup. The last thing that you want is your colonists getting bored of television watching recreation because they're using these tables every day, and they end up completely ignoring your very expensive and far more impactful cinema setup in favour of other, cheaper recreation sources, like reading, solitary relaxation, or telescope study. At this tech, you also get the outdoor solar lamp, which feels crazy late for how affordable this little thing is compared to everything else. It costs just 30 steel and 1 component. They're just as powerful as a normal floor lamp without the need for conduits, as well as being completely safe to leave out in the rain with no fear of explosions. You'll need to leave these on roof though, otherwise they won't be able to charge their internal battery via the little solar panel. They will automatically turn on when it gets dark enough, making them useful to keep around your fields or borders so that you can keep your entire base lit during the night, or just to add a little bit of aesthetic flair to the pathing around your colony. They also help out with things like deep drills. If you tend to haul around a charged battery or a vanometric cell, these can sit at the dig site and keep it perfectly well lit to avoid the work speed penalty, without causing the power source to drain any faster. And yes, they can also be set to dark light if you want to light up the darkness with dark. That leaves us with the final part, and I did save the best for last to bait out that sweet average view time, the Mechanite repair shelf. As repairing in Rimworld is something that's currently unintended with the core design around item degradation that forces material turnover, balancing varies wildly from mod to mod as to how this should be approached. So this might be one of the more considered and fair options currently available on the workshop, and that's coming from someone who uses Mend and Recycle. I'm well aware that that mod is pretty overpowered and far too accessible by default. So what does this shelf cost? 20 plasteel, 3 advanced components and 1 healer mech serum, which is where I'd say this nails that balancing aspect. They're going to be hard enough to get your hands on so that you can't just throw down multiple and call it a day, but it's not so inaccessible that you would never build one either. Not only that, it's going to nudge some players more in the direction of making use of often ignored buildings, like biosculpting pods, which can cure your bad scars instead of throwing a healer mech serum at it. To get this working in its most optimal manner, you want to make sure that it's set up with 0 to 99% on its acceptable item hit points, and consider forbidding anything lower than normal quality too. You also want to uncheck tainted and biocoded gear, as this shelf is only going to hold one item at a time and it's going to repair 1 point of damage every hour. It's a very slow process and you want to make sure it's actually being used on gear that you give a crap about. This is also going to be draining 750 watts of power regardless of if it's in use or not, so make sure to set its priority critical so it's always working on something, rather than leaving damaged gear on a standard shelf. That way at least it'll always be working fixing up those dinks and scuffs on weapons that were dropped in the rain for a couple of hours.
Drop it on the ground.
Do you know how bad that is for it? I will place it on the ground.
And that about covers it. You'll all be ready to go now with your space of furniture when the next expansion drops, which makes me curious to see how this stacks up in terms of balancing around the new build costs that are going to be coming in. It's no great secret that the big creators in the modding community are given a bit of a heads up about any upcoming changes and expansions, so that their work isn't nuked from orbit every time a new DLC drops. It'd probably drive a lot of mod makers away from creating if they had to scramble to fix dozens of workshop items every time this happened. And with the new expansion in mind and the teaser image that we saw, it's exciting to think about what we might be getting. This script was written before the announcement scheduled to occur on the 11th of June, and I've spent a little bit of time going over that splash screen image because we know from Biotech and Anomaly that there are clear indications of what's planned on the character and the background that's shown. With that in mind, there's clearly space stations, shuttles, volcanic biomes, spacesuits, advanced weaponry, flying fauna, new flora and minerals, exploration hints from that compass, and what I'm assuming is some kind of map container on the guy's hip. In terms of throwing a little bit of speculation into the mix and getting some friendly discussion going on in the comments, I'm expecting to see planets that we can visit to claim exotic resources, find ancient treasures, or complete quests for orbital stations that will likely be uninhabitable for the long term. I'm thinking like a planet with a rapidly destabilizing atmosphere, or weather conditions that are so harsh it essentially causes it to delete all life on it every year or so, meaning you'll be flying out to grab stuff, but you'll be bringing it back to your main base. Who knows though, Anomaly had some stuff that I'd never expected to see in Rimworld, so this new offering might really surprise us. I've also completely slept on how big of a thing a bird being shown in this image is. There isn't any flying wildlife in base game Rimworld currently, which means if it's more than just birds, manhunter packs might now have methods of getting over your colony's outer walls, which I for one am extremely interested in seeing. Anyway, I'll be sure to do a DLC rundown as soon as it's out, and I'll also be putting up a patch notes video when that goes live too, as I'd imagine anytime soon we're going to be moving up to 1.6. If you'd like to see the current suggestion list for mod rundowns, it's available to view on my Patreon page. All the posts there are totally free to read and it's pinned at the very top. You can support me in producing content like this for just £1 a month. It gets your name in the credits of these videos and it helps me to stay alive. Thanks for watching folks. If you have any mods you'd like to see a full breakdown for, or suggestions for mods you would like to see covered, feel free to leave them in the comments, I might get around to them. I'll be back again soon with another Rimworld mod rundown. Wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon or evening. Take care.